If your heart feels heavy tonight, you're safe here. You don't have to be strong right now, not in this moment. Just breathe slowly and let the weight of this day loosen its grip on you. Here in this quiet space, you are not alone. The Lord sees your weariness. He knows the struggles hidden beneath your strength, and He is closer than your own breath. So, for a little while, let me sit with you. Let the noise of the world fade, and let your soul find rest in His presence. Tonight we will journey to an ancient story from 2 Kings chapter 5. Not as a lesson, but as a gentle companion for your tired heart. This is the story of Naaman, a man of great power and honor, yet carrying a wound no one could heal. His journey from pride to healing, from strength to surrender, is a mirror for every soul that has ever felt broken beneath a perfect surface. As you listen, may these words soften every tight place within you. May they calm your anxious thoughts, and may they cradle your spirit in the peace that only He can give. And, my dear friend, if these moments of rest bring peace to your heart, I gently invite you to press like and subscribe so that we may walk this journey of faith together. And if your soul is carrying something tonight, feel free to share it in the comments. You are never alone here, not before God, and not with us. If this brings you rest, I'm grateful you're here. Now, let us begin. Let me tell you about Naaman, a man whose name was spoken with reverence across the ancient lands of Aram. When he walked through the palace halls, soldiers straightened their backs. When he entered a room, the air itself seemed to hold its breath. He was the commander of the army of Aram, a warrior whose sword had turned the tide of battles, whose strategies had brought victory after victory to his king. The king loved him deeply. The people honored him with their words and their admiration. His name was written in the annals of their history as one of the greatest. And yet, beneath the armor, beneath the medals and the applause, there was something no one could see. A secret, a wound that no sword could fight, a pain that no victory could silence, a darkness that followed him even in his brightest moments. Naaman had leprosy. Can you imagine? This mighty man who commanded thousands with a single word could not command his own body. This warrior who had conquered nations and brought kings to their knees could not conquer the disease slowly spreading across his skin. At night, when the palace grew quiet, when the servants left, and the torches dimmed to glowing embers, he would look at his hands in the flickering light, and he would see it, the pale patches, the discoloration, the slow, relentless advance of something he could not stop, could not fight, could not overcome with all his strength and military genius. In ancient times, leprosy was more than just a disease. It was a sentence, a separation. It meant being cut off from community, from worship, from everything that made life worth living. For Naaman, it meant watching his powerful body betray him bit by bit. It meant living with the terror that one day someone would notice. One day the secret would be exposed. One day all that he had built would crumble. Perhaps you know what that feels like, dear friend. Perhaps you too carry something beneath the surface that keeps you awake at night. Something the world doesn't see when they look at your accomplishments. Your smile, your strength. A fear that gnaws at you. A shame that whispers your name in the darkness. A brokenness that echoes through your chest and tells you, you are not whole, you are not enough, You are falling apart and no one can know. Naaman knew that whisper intimately. He was glorious on the outside, celebrated and honored, but crumbling within. Success could not heal him. Military victories could not touch the ache. Honor could not stop the spread. And all the power in the world, all the gold in the royal treasury, all the king's favor, could not give him peace, could not restore what was being taken from him day by day. He would stand on the balcony of his home looking out over Damascus. The city sprawled before him, beautiful and bustling. The markets alive with color and sound. The gardens lush with flowering trees. Everything looked perfect from a distance. But inside his own skin, he was dying. Slowly, inevitably, and there was nothing he could do. Have you ever felt that way? Everything looking fine on the outside while you're breaking on the inside, smiling through conversations while your heart screams for help, achieving things that should make you happy, but finding no relief from the pain that lives beneath your ribs. You are not alone in that feeling tonight. Naaman felt it too, and God saw him, just as he sees you now. But God sees differently than we do, doesn't he? Where Naaman saw only darkness closing in, where he felt only despair and the slow march toward inevitable loss, God had already placed a light. And that light, dear friend, that light came in the smallest, most unexpected, most unlikely form you could imagine. A little girl, a captive, a servant in Naaman's own household, taken from her home in Israel during one of his military raids. She had been ripped away from everything she knew and loved: her family, her friends, her homeland, her freedom. She had every reason to be bitter toward Naaman, every reason to wish him harm, to celebrate his suffering, to see his disease as divine justice, every reason to stay silent and let him suffer what he deserved. She was, after all, a slave because of him. Her life had been torn apart by his conquests. But love, true love, doesn't work that way, does it? True compassion doesn't wait for deserving. It doesn't calculate who is worthy and who is not. It simply flows. Like water from a spring, it flows naturally, abundantly, without asking permission or demanding payment. One day, as she served Naaman's wife in the quiet chambers of the household, as she performed her duties with gentle hands, this young girl spoke. Her voice was soft, tender, like a candle flame flickering in a cold room, like a bird's song at dawn. "I wish my master could meet the prophet in Samaria." She said her words carrying both sorrow and hope. He would heal him of his leprosy. Can you hear the tenderness in those words, friend? I wish. Not anger, not revenge, not he deserves this, not let him suffer as I have suffered. Just hope. A pure, childlike, unguarded hope that believed healing was possible, even for the man who had taken everything from her, even for her captor, even for the enemy. This little girl, whose name we don't even know, whose face history never recorded, spoke life into a house of death. She spoke possibility into impossibility. She spoke light into darkness. And she did it with no guarantee of reward, no promise of freedom, no expectation of recognition. God often works this way, my friend. He doesn't always send thunder and lightning from heaven. He doesn't always part the seas or write messages in the sky. Sometimes he sends a whisper, a small voice from an unexpected corner, a kind word from someone you overlooked, a moment of grace delivered by the least likely messenger. The very thing you've been searching for, the answer you've been desperate to find, might come wrapped in humility, spoken by someone you'd never expect arriving in a package that doesn't look like much at all. That little girl didn't know she was part of a divine plan. She didn't know her simple words would echo through centuries, would be written in Scripture, would be told and retold for thousands of years. She didn't wake up that morning thinking, "Today I will change history." She just cared. She saw suffering and wanted it to end. She knew of a prophet who served the living God, and she had the courage to speak, and that was enough. God took her compassion, her small act of kindness, her gentle words, and turned them into a doorway to healing, a doorway to transformation, a doorway to grace that would change not just Naaman's body, but his entire soul. Perhaps tonight you need to hear this, dear one. You don't have to be powerful to be used by God. You don't have to be perfect or important or influential. You don't have to have a platform or a title or a position of authority. You don't have to have it all figured out or have all the answers. Sometimes, all God needs is a willing heart, a gentle word spoken at the right moment, a small act of courage to speak hope into someone's darkness, a mustard seed of faith. The kingdom of God is full of little girls with big faith, full of unnamed servants who changed the world, full of quiet voices that spoke loudly enough for heaven to hear. And you might be that voice for someone tonight. You might be the unexpected answer to someone's desperate prayer. So Naaman, desperate now, willing to try anything, clinging to the thread of hope this young servant girl had offered, went to his king. He told him about the prophet in Samaria, about the possibility of healing, about this God of Israel who might be able to do what no physician could do. And the king of Aram, who loved Naaman deeply, who valued him not just as a commander, but as a friend who could not bear to lose him. The king immediately took action. He wrote a letter. A formal royal letter sealed with his official seal pressed into warm wax. He loaded Naaman down with gifts befitting a man of his stature. 10 talents of silver shining and heavy. 6,000 shekels of gold gleaming in the sunlight. 10 sets of clothing, the finest fabrics, colors rich as jewels. Gifts that announced importance. Gifts that demanded attention. Gifts that said, "This man matters. Help him." The letter was simple but weighty. "With this letter, I am sending my servant Naaman to you so that you may cure him of his leprosy." Can you picture the journey, friend? Close your eyes and see it with me. The caravan moving slowly through the dusty roads that connected Aram to Israel. The sound of horses' hooves steady and rhythmic like a heartbeat. The creak of cartwheels, the jingle of harnesses. The weight of hope mixed with doubt pressing down on Naaman's chest, heavier than his armor ever was. Mile after mile under the vast desert sky. The sun warm on his face during the day, turning the landscape gold and amber. The wind carrying whispers of possibility, or perhaps just sand. The cool of evening, bringing relief, bringing stars, bringing another day closer to. What healing disappointment he didn't know. At night, when they made camp, when fires were lit and guards were posted, did Naaman look at those stars and wonder? Did he pray to his gods? Did he think about the little slave girl's words? Did he dare to hope the journey took days? Days of traveling through wilderness and villages. Days of watching the landscape change. Days of feeling the disease still there, still spreading patient as death. Days of wondering if this was foolishness, if he was chasing wind, if hope itself was just another kind of cruelty. But when the letter finally reached the king of Israel, when it was delivered into his hands and he broke the seal and read the words, panic set in. The king tore his robes in distress, the fabric ripping loudly in the throne room. "Am I God?" he cried out, his voice echoing off the stone walls, "to give life and death? Why does this man send someone to me to cure his leprosy?" He paced back and forth, his mind racing. "Can't you see this is a trap? He's looking for an excuse to attack us. He's trying to pick a fight with me. He sends an impossible request so that when I fail, he has justification for war. Fear, misunderstanding, the very human response to problems too big for us to solve." The king saw a trap, a political maneuver, a threat wrapped in the language of request. He saw danger and war, and the end of the fragile peace between their nations. But he didn't see what God was doing. He couldn't see the divine hand orchestrating something far beyond politics and power. He couldn't see that this wasn't about him at all, because God wasn't asking the king to heal anyone. God had never expected the king to be the solution. God was simply asking him to get out of the way, to stop trying to control what he couldn't control, to recognize his own limitations and point toward the one who had no limitations. And when Elisha, the prophet, the man of God who walked in power and humility, heard about the king's distress, heard about the torn robes and the panic and the fear of war, he sent a message. A calm, quiet, unhurried message, like still waters, like a steady flame. "Why are you so upset? Why are you tearing your clothes and losing your peace? Send Naaman to me. Let him come to me, and he will know there is a prophet in Israel. He will know that the God of Israel is real, is present, is powerful. No fanfare, no demanding a royal procession, no insisting on payment or position. Just send him to me. Do you see it, friend? Do you see what's happening here? Naaman came with wealth, with power, with letters from kings and gifts fit for royalty. He came expecting a grand solution, a spectacle worthy of his status, a healing that would match his importance. He thought his position would matter. He thought his achievements would open doors. He thought the gold and silver would speak for him. But God's healing, it doesn't work that way. It never has. It never will. You can't buy it with money. You can't earn it with good deeds. You can't demand it with position or prestige or past accomplishments. You can't force it with power or influence or the right connections. Healing true. Healing, the kind that reaches into your very bones and restores what was lost. That kind of healing comes only one way. It comes when you're willing to go where God leads, even if the path doesn't make sense. Even if it's not what you expected. Even if it feels too simple, too ordinary, too beneath you. Even if it wounds your pride and challenges everything you thought you knew about how the world works. Naaman had to learn this. He had to learn that the God of Israel wasn't impressed by his resume, wasn't swayed by his military victories, wasn't moved by his wealth or his reputation. This God looked at hearts, not at titles. This God measured need, not status. This God offered healing as a gift, not as a transaction. Tonight, as you rest here in this quiet space, as your breathing slows and your body settles into stillness, let this truth sink deep into your heart like water into thirsty ground. Let it reach the places that are dry and cracked and desperate. God is not impressed by what the world values. He doesn't measure you by your achievements or your status or your bank account or your job title or how many people know your name. He doesn't check your credentials before deciding if you're worthy of his attention. He sees deeper than all of that. He sees your need, your hidden pain, your secret struggle, the disease you're hiding, the fear you carry, the shame you can't shake, the wound that won't heal, the question that haunts you. He sees you, the real you, the one underneath all the armor and achievements. And he invites you, not to prove yourself, not to earn your way, not to bring impressive gifts or letters of recommendation, but simply to come. Come as you are, broken, tired, uncertain, desperate. Come with your leprosy, whatever form it takes. Come with your shame, your fear, your doubt. Come with your unanswered questions and your disappointed hopes. Come with empty hands and a heavy heart. Come and discover that the God who heals doesn't need your perfection. He only needs your willingness, your yes, your step forward even when you don't understand where the path leads. Rest now, dear one. Let these words sink in like rain on dry ground. Let them water the seeds of hope that have been waiting in the soil of your heart. You are seen. You are known. You are loved. Exactly as you are right where you are with whatever you're carrying tonight. Close your eyes. Feel the weight leaving your shoulders. Feel the tension in your jaw releasing. Feel your hands unclenching. You don't have to fix everything tonight. You don't have to solve it all. You don't have to be strong. Just be held. Just be known. Just be loved. Amen. So Naaman arrived at Elisha's house. Picture it with me, friend. The great commander surrounded by his servants and soldiers, his chariots gleaming in the sunlight, horses stamping their hooves on the dusty ground, the clinking of armor, the rustle of fine robes, the weight of all that silver and gold carried behind him in careful bundles. Everything about his arrival announced importance. Everything said, "A great man has come. Pay attention. Show respect." Naaman stood there at the door expecting what any man of his position would expect. He expected Elisha to rush out eyes wide with honor at receiving such a distinguished guest. He expected the prophet to bow, perhaps, or at least to acknowledge his status. He expected ceremony, recognition, a moment worthy of who he was. In his mind, he had already pictured it. Elisha would come out probably trembling a little at the presence of such power. He would place his hands on Naaman's diseased skin, call upon his God with dramatic prayers loud enough for everyone to hear. There would be light, perhaps, or fire, or some visible sign that something miraculous was happening, something befitting a commander's healing. That's what Naaman expected. That's what he felt he deserved. But Elisha didn't even come to the door. He sent a messenger instead. A simple servant who walked out bowed slightly and delivered a message as casually as if he were giving directions to the market. Elisha says, "Go and wash yourself 7 times in the Jordan River. Then your flesh will be restored and you will be cleansed." That was it. No grand welcome. No hands laid on in prayer. No acknowledgement of Naaman's importance. No ceremony. No spectacle. Just a simple instruction delivered by a servant. Go wash in the river. 7 times. That's all. Can you imagine the silence that followed? Friend. The shock that must have rippled through Naaman's chest. the slow burning heat of humiliation rising up his neck. He had traveled so far, brought so much. He was commander of an entire army, and the prophet wouldn't even come out to greet him. This is where pride lives, isn't it? Right here in this moment of wounded dignity. Pride doesn't just want healing. It wants healing on its own terms. It wants the miracle wrapped in the package it ordered. It wants God to show up the way it expects with the fanfare it feels it deserves. Pride says, "I will humble myself, but only if you honor me first. I will obey, but only if the instruction is worthy of my status." How many miracles, dear one? How many breakthroughs? How many moments of divine intervention have been missed because pride stood in the doorway? How many times has God offered healing and we've turned away because it didn't come packaged the way we thought it should? How many times have we said, "Not like that, God. I need it to look different. I needed people to see. I needed to feel important." Naaman stood there, his face flushing red, his jaw clenching. The servants around him shifted uncomfortably, not sure what to say. The horses sensed the tension and moved restlessly. And inside Naaman's chest, disappointment was quickly turning to anger. The kind of anger that rises when we feel small, when we feel dismissed, when our ego is bruised and our pride is wounded. He had come so far for this a second-hand message from a prophet, too busy or too unimpressed to even look at him. An instruction so simple a child could have given it. This was the great prophet of Israel. This was the man who was supposed to heal him. Maybe you've felt that way too, friend. Maybe you've come to God with your pain, your desperation, your carefully prepared list of reasons why He should help you. And His answer felt too simple, too ordinary, too beneath you somehow. Maybe you expected thunder and got a whisper. Maybe you expected a dramatic intervention and got a quiet instruction. Maybe you expected God to acknowledge your efforts, your goodness, your reasons why you deserve this. And instead, He just said, "Trust me. Do this simple thing. Let go of how you think it should happen." It's hard, isn't it, when the miracle doesn't look miraculous yet, when the path to healing feels too humble, when God's way challenges everything we thought we knew about how we should be treated. Naaman's anger wasn't really about Elisha. It was about what Elisha's dismissal represented. It was about being treated as ordinary when he felt extraordinary. It was about having his importance ignored when he was used to having his importance celebrated. It was about the fear underneath all pride, the fear that whispers, "If they don't see how special I am, maybe I'm not special at all. Maybe I'm just common. Maybe I'm just another broken person with no claim to preferential treatment." And that's the truth pride doesn't want to face. Before God, we are all the same. Commander or slave, rich or poor, famous or forgotten. We all come with the same need. We all come with empty hands. We all come with diseases we cannot cure on our own. And God's healing doesn't bow to our sense of importance. It doesn't adjust itself to our expectations. It simply is available, offered, waiting for us to be humble enough to receive it. Many miracles die right here, friend. Right at the doorway of disappointed expectations. Right where our pride meets God's simplicity. Right where we have to choose between our dignity and our desperation. Between looking important and getting healed. Between being right about how it should happen and being willing to try what God is actually offering. Naaman was standing at that crossroads, and for a moment it looked like he was going to choose wrong. Naaman's voice, when he finally spoke, was tight with rage. You could hear the control he was forcing into his words, the effort it took not to explode completely. "I thought," he said slowly, each word clipped and precise. "I thought he would surely come out to me and stand and call on the name of the Lord his God, wave his hand over the spot, and cure me of my leprosy." Listen to those words, friend. I thought. So much pain lives in that phrase, so much disappointment, so much unmet expectation. I thought you would show up differently. I thought this would work differently. I thought I mattered more than this. I thought my suffering would be met with more ceremony, more recognition, more respect. But Naaman wasn't finished. The anger was building now, the humiliation demanding expression. "Are not Abana and Pharpar, the rivers of Damascus, better than all the waters of Israel? Couldn't I wash in them and be cleansed?" Can you hear it? The comparison. The wounded pride trying to regain some sense of superiority. Yes, he needed healing, but his rivers were still better. His homeland was still superior. This muddy Jordan River couldn't possibly be more effective than the clear, beautiful rivers of Damascus. The rivers he knew. The rivers that matched his status. If he was going to wash in a river, surely it should be a river befitting a commander. A river worthy of his dignity. But God's instructions rarely make sense to our pride, do they? They rarely honor our sense of what's appropriate or impressive. God told Naaman to wash in the Jordan. Not because the Jordan was special in itself. Not because its waters had some magical property. But because obedience is what opens the door to miracles. Humility is what makes space for God to work. And the Jordan represented everything Naaman's pride didn't want to accept: simplicity, ordinariness, surrender. The Jordan River, friend, wasn't much to look at. It wasn't wide and impressive like the rivers of Damascus. It was muddy, brown. It wound through the wilderness like a humble servant doing its quiet work. In some places it was shallow enough to wade across. There was nothing glorious about it, nothing that would make a great story. "I was healed in the mighty Jordan" didn't have quite the same ring as being healed in the crystal clear waters of Damascus. But that was exactly the point. God's instruction to wash in the Jordan 7 times wasn't about the water. It was about the washing away of pride. It was about Naaman learning that healing comes through obedience, not through impressive settings. It was about discovering that God's power doesn't need our approval of his methods. It was about choosing, do I want to be right, or do I want to be healed? Do I want to maintain my dignity, or do I want to be made whole? 7 times, not once, not twice. 7 times, Naaman would have to lower himself into that muddy water. 7 times he would have to come up dripping and unchanged looking, foolish, feeling ridiculous. 7 times he would have to trust that this simple, humble act was leading somewhere. That God knew what he was doing even when it made no sense. Perhaps tonight, friend, you're facing a Jordan River moment of your own. Perhaps God has given you an instruction that feels too simple, too ordinary, too beneath you, or too different from what you expected. Perhaps he's asking you to do something that won't make a good story, won't impress anyone, won't protect your image or maintain your dignity. Perhaps he's asking you to trust him in a way that feels vulnerable and small. Maybe it's forgiveness when you wanted justice. Maybe it's patience when you wanted immediate change. Maybe it's surrender when you wanted control. Maybe it's asking for help when you wanted to prove you could do it alone. Maybe it's admitting you were wrong when you wanted to be right. Maybe it's taking the humble path when you wanted the impressive one. The Jordan River is anything that requires you to let go of how you think it should be and trust how God says it is. It's the place where your will meets His will, where your plan meets His plan, where your timeline meets His timing. And standing at the edge of that river with muddy water and a simple instruction, we have to decide what matters more, our pride or our healing. Naaman was furious now. The text says he turned and went off in a rage. He had had enough. He was done with this prophet who wouldn't honor him properly. Done with this God who gave instruction that made no sense. Done with this whole humiliating journey. He would go home. He would live with his leprosy. At least he would live with his dignity intact. He climbed back into his chariot jaw, set eyes hard. His servants gathered around uncertainly. The horses began to turn ready to carry him away from his healing. Away from the miracle that was waiting. Away from the very thing he had traveled so far to find. And he would have left. He would have missed it all. His pride would have cost him everything. But God, in His mercy, had placed one more voice in Naaman's path. One more gentle intervention. One more doorway to grace. Naaman's servants approached him carefully. You can picture it, can't you? The way they must have glanced at each other first, wondering who would speak, who would risk the commander's wrath. The way they must have chosen their words so carefully, knowing one wrong phrase could make everything worse. These were men who knew Naaman well, who had served him through battles and victories, who had seen him at his strongest, and lately at his most vulnerable. They loved him, these servants, not because they had to, but because beneath the armor and the anger and the pride, they had seen his heart. One of them stepped forward. His voice was gentle, respectful, but firm, like a father reasoning with a beloved son who's about to make a terrible mistake. "My father," he said, using a term of endearment, of relationship, of deep care. "If the prophet had told you to do some great thing, would you not have done it?" Let that question sit with you for a moment, friend. If the prophet had told you to do something great, something impressive, something that would make a story worth telling, would you not have done it? If he had said, "Climb the highest mountain," or "Fight the fiercest enemy," or "Bring me the rarest treasure," you would have done it without hesitation. You would have thrown yourself into the challenge with all your strength. Your pride could have handled that. Your ego could have survived an impressive quest. But this simple thing, this ordinary instruction, this is what you refuse. The servant continued, his voice even softer now, like a gentle hand on a shoulder. How much more then when he tells you, "Wash and be cleansed"? How much more? The logic was undeniable. The truth was clear. If you're willing to do the difficult thing, why not the simple thing? If you're willing to risk your life in battle, why not risk your pride in a river? If you're willing to travel across nations for healing, why not walk into muddy water? What is really stopping you? Is it the instruction itself? Or is it what the instruction requires you to admit about yourself, that you need help, that you're not in control, that your way hasn't worked, that you're just as broken as anyone else regardless of your titles or achievements, that healing requires humility, and humility requires letting go of the image you've worked so hard to maintain? There's something so beautiful about this moment, friend. something that reflects the heart of God Himself. The healing didn't come through the prophet's grand gesture. It didn't come through impressive ceremony or visible power. It came through a servant's gentle words, through quiet reasoning, through love that risked rejection to speak truth, through a voice that refused to let pride have the final word. God so often works this way, doesn't He? He doesn't shout down our stubbornness. He doesn't force us into obedience. He doesn't overwhelm our resistance with displays of power. Instead, He sends a gentle voice, a quiet conviction, a friend who speaks truth in love, a moment of clarity that cuts through all the noise and anger and wounded pride and simply asks, "What do you really want, to be right or to be whole?" The servants didn't shame Naaman. They didn't say, "You're being ridiculous," or "Stop acting like a child," or "Your pride is going to kill you." They didn't attack his ego. They simply reasoned with him, gently, lovingly, with respect for his dignity, even as they challenged his decision. They created space for him to change his mind without losing face. They built a bridge from his anger back to his hope. This is wisdom, friend. This is how we help each other toward healing, not with judgment or condemnation, not with "I told you so" or "You should know better," but with gentle questions, with patient love, with voices that say, "I see you. I understand why you're hurt, and I don't want you to miss this because of pride that we all struggle with." Naaman stood there, breathing hard, the reins still in his hands, the horses still pointed toward home. His servants waited. The sun beat down. The moment stretched. Everything hung in the balance. Would he choose pride or healing? Would he choose control or surrender? Would he let his servant's words reach past his anger to the desperate hope underneath? And slowly, so slowly, something shifted in Naaman's face. The hard lines began to soften. The rigid jaw began to relax. The eyes, which had been blazing with rage, began to show something else. Doubt, perhaps. Or recognition. Or maybe just exhaustion with carrying all that pride, all that image, all that insistence on being treated according to his rank. Maybe he remembered why he came in the first place. Not to be honored, but to be healed. Not to prove his importance, but to save his life. Maybe he thought of his home, of his wife, of the nights lying awake feeling the disease spread. Maybe he thought of the little slave girl who had spoken with such simple faith. Maybe he just let himself be tired of fighting, tired of protecting his dignity when his body was falling apart, tired of needing to be impressive when he just needed to be helped. Whatever happened in that moment, whatever grace touched his heart, whatever whisper from God reached through the noise. Naaman turned the chariot around. He didn't say much. Pride doesn't surrender with grand speeches. It surrenders quietly, almost secretly, with just a small nod, a slight change of direction, a willingness to try what it had rejected. He turned toward the Jordan, toward the muddy water, toward the simple instruction, toward the humility he had been avoiding. And in that turning, though he didn't know it yet, he turned toward his healing. Do you see it, friend? Do you see how close Naaman came to missing everything? How close he came to letting his wounded pride cost him his very life? Do you see how the miracle was waiting just on the other side of his willingness to let go? And do you see how God in his kindness sent voices to call him back? How God didn't let him walk away without one more gentle intervention? How God used simple servants, not powerful prophets, to speak the words that would change everything tonight? if you're standing at your own Jordan River angry at how simple or ordinary or unhelpful God's instruction seems, if you're turning away because it's not what you expected, not impressive enough, not worthy of your situation. Listen for the gentle voices. Listen for the quiet wisdom. Listen for the love that asks, if God had told you to do something great, wouldn't you do it? Then how much more when He simply says, trust me with this small thing. Your healing might be waiting in the very place your pride doesn't want to go. Your breakthrough might require the humility you've been avoiding. Your miracle might be wrapped in an ordinary instruction that your ego finds offensive. But, oh dear one, what waits on the other side of that surrender? What waits in those muddy waters? What waits when you finally say, okay, I don't understand it. I don't like it. It's not what I wanted. But I'm desperate enough to try. I'm humble enough now to obey. I'm willing to look foolish if there's even a chance of being healed. That's where the story is about to turn. That's where everything changes. That's where Naaman, proud commander, wounded warrior, desperate man, becomes Naaman, the one who learned that healing flows to the humble, that miracles meet us in our surrender, that God's ways, though they don't make sense to our pride, are always, always leading us toward restoration. Rest here for a moment, friend. Feel the tension of this story. Feel the choice Naaman faced. And know that you're not alone in facing such choices. We all stand at Jordan rivers. We all wrestle with pride and surrender. We all have to decide what we want more to protect our dignity or to be made whole. And the beautiful truth is this: God waits for us with patience. He doesn't rush us. He doesn't shame us. He simply waits, with gentle voices and open arms and muddy water that holds more healing than we can imagine. Let your shoulders drop. Let your breath slow. Let the need to be right, to be impressive, to be in control. Let it begin to fade like mist in morning sun. You are loved, you are seen, and your healing is closer than you think. Amen. So Naaman went down to the Jordan. Picture him there, friend, standing at the edge of the water, looking down at the muddy brown current flowing past. His servants standing at a respectful distance, watching. The horses tied nearby, swishing their tails at flies. The sun warm on his shoulders. And inside his chest, his heart beating hard with a mixture of hope and humiliation and stubbornness that hadn't quite let go. He stood there for a long moment, just looking at the water, probably thinking about those clear rivers back home in Damascus, probably feeling foolish, probably wondering if this was really going to work or if he was about to make himself look ridiculous for nothing. The pride was still there, you see, quieter now, but still there, still whispering that this was beneath him, still insisting there should be a better way. But he had come this far. He had turned the chariot around. He had made the choice. So now he had to follow through. Naaman began removing his outer garments, the fine robes that marked his rank, the symbols of his status. Layer by layer, he became less of a commander and more of just a man, a sick man, a desperate man, a man who needed something he couldn't give himself. His servants took the clothing, carefully folding it, setting it aside. And Naaman stood there in his simple undergarments, the disease visible now on his exposed skin. The patches he usually hid. The shame he usually covered. There's something sacred about that moment, isn't there? That moment of exposure. That moment when we stop hiding and just are. sick, broken, needing help. No titles to protect us, no achievements to shield us, just our wounded selves standing at the edge of what we cannot control. Then Naaman stepped into the water. The first touch was cold. The mud squelched between his toes. The current pulled at his legs. He waded out until the water was deep enough, took a breath, and went under. The first time. The water closed over his head, brown and murky. He could feel the current tugging at him, the coolness surrounding him. For a moment, everything was muted, quiet, just him and the water, and the act of obedience that felt both terrifying and strangely peaceful. Then he came up, water streaming down his face, gasping slightly, blinking against the bright sun, and he looked down at his skin, and nothing had changed. The pale patches were still there. The disease still marked him. He was still sick, still broken, still the same. Can you imagine what he felt in that moment, friend? The disappointment, the whisper of, "I knew it wouldn't work." The temptation to say, "See, this was foolish. I was right to be angry." The old pride trying to resurrect itself, saying, "This is exactly what I was afraid of," looking stupid for nothing. But the instruction had been clear. 7 times, not 1. 7. So even though nothing had changed, even though his skin was still marked and diseased, even though every visible sign said this wasn't working, Naaman went under again. The second time, down into the brown water, under the surface, submerged in obedience that made no sense yet, trusting even when he couldn't see results. And up again, water in his eyes, water running down his chest, and still nothing. The disease remained. The healing hadn't come. This is where faith lives, dear one. Not in the first moment when hope is fresh and anything seems possible, but here, in the second time, in the third time, in the continuing to obey even when nothing appears to be changing, in the doing what God said even when it looks like it's not working, in the staying in the water even when you want to climb out and say, "I tried, it didn't work, I'm done." The third time, down and up, water and air, still sick. The fourth time, the movements becoming rhythmic now, mechanical almost, down and up, trust and breathe, obey and wait, still no change. How many times, friend, have you started something God asked you to do and quit before the 7th time? How many times have you prayed once, twice, 3 times, and then given up when you didn't see immediate results? How many times have you obeyed partially and then walked away saying, "See, it doesn't work. God doesn't answer. This isn't for me." Naaman could have stopped at any point. After the first time, he could have said, "Nothing happened. This prophet was wrong." After the third time, he could have said, "I gave it a fair try. I did my part." After the 5th time, he could have said, "I'm tired. I'm cold. I'm done making a fool of myself." But something kept him going. Maybe it was the memory of his servant's gentle words. Maybe it was the fading echo of the little slave girl's faith. Maybe it was desperation stronger than pride. Maybe it was just the stubborn determination that had made him a great commander, now redirected toward healing instead of conquest. Maybe it was the whisper of God himself saying, "Keep going, stay in the water, trust me just a little longer." The 5th time, down into the muddy current, the water washing over him. Nothing special about it, nothing magical, just water, just a river, just an act of humble obedience repeated again and again, and up, still marked, still diseased. The 6th time, his servants watching silently, the sun moving across the sky. Time passing in this strange ritual of surrender. Down, under, up, breathe, look, still the same. By now, Naaman might have been exhausted, might have been doubting everything, might have been feeling more foolish with each immersion. His pride was wounded. His hope was fragile. His body was tired and cold and wet, and still he was sick. But the instruction had been clear. 7 times, not 6. 7. So Naaman, commander of armies, conqueror of nations, proud man, slowly learning humility. He went under 1 more time, the 7th time, down into the water. Deeper now, perhaps, or maybe the same depth but with a different quality to the surrender. The last time, the final act of obedience. All he could do, he had done. All that was asked, he had given. Now it was up to God. The water surrounded him. The current flowed past, and beneath the surface in that quiet submerged moment, something happened. Something miraculous. Something that no human effort could accomplish, no medicine could achieve, no amount of gold could purchase. The very hand of God reached down and healed. Naaman came up from the water the 7th time, gasping, blinking, water streaming from his hair, his hands moving automatically to wipe his face. And then he looked down, and he froze. His skin was different. The pale patches were gone. The rough, diseased texture had vanished. His arms, his chest, his hands, they were smooth, clear, whole. The skin was like a child's, fresh, new, unmarked, as if the disease had never been there at all. For a moment, Naaman couldn't move, couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. He just stared at his hands, turning them over in the sunlight. Looking at arms that had been marked for so long, he'd almost forgotten what healthy skin looked like. Touching his chest, his neck, his face. Everything whole. Everything restored. Everything healed. Then the emotions came, like a dam breaking, like a storm breaking over the mountains, like every tear he'd held back for months or years suddenly demanding release. His breath caught, his vision blurred, his chest heaved with something too big for words. Joy, relief, gratitude, wonder, disbelief, overwhelming, crushing, beautiful realization that he was healed. Actually healed, completely healed. Naaman began to weep, not quiet, dignified tears, but deep, shaking sobs. The kind of crying that comes from a place so deep you didn't know it existed. The kind of release that happens when something you've carried for so long is suddenly miraculously lifted. He stood there in the Jordan River, this great commander, this proud warrior crying like a child. His servants watching with their own tears streaming. The water flowing past, carrying away not just the disease, but the fear, the shame, the hopelessness he had been living with. He looked at his hands again. Still clean, still whole. It wasn't a dream. It wasn't a trick of the light. It was real. God had done it. God had actually done it. Do you hear it, friend? Do you hear the sound of impossible prayers answered? Do you hear the sound of miracles blooming in the muddy water? Do you hear the sound of healing breaking through after the 7th act of faith? This is what happens when we humble ourselves, when we stop demanding God work on our terms and start trusting Him on His, when we stop insisting on impressive solutions and start obeying simple instructions, when we go under once, twice, 7 times, even when nothing appears to be changing, even when we look foolish, even when pride screams at us to stop. The miracle was there all along, you see, waiting, not in the water itself, but in the obedience. not in the method, but in the surrender. God could have healed Naaman the first time, could have healed him on dry land, could have healed him back in Damascus without the journey at all. But the 7 times weren't about the water. They were about Naaman, about teaching him that healing comes through humility, that restoration requires surrender, that you have to let go of control before you can receive grace. And maybe, dear one, maybe you're in your 3rd time right now, or your 5th, or your 6th. Maybe you've been obeying God's instruction and nothing seems to be changing. Maybe you've been praying and the answer hasn't come. Maybe you've been trusting and the breakthrough feels farther away than ever. Maybe you're tired and cold and wondering if you should just give up. Don't stop at 6. Don't walk away before the 7th. Don't let weariness steal your miracle. The healing might be waiting in the very next act of faith. The breakthrough might come with the very next prayer. The restoration might bloom with the very next moment of trust. Naaman climbed out of that river a different man. Not just because his skin was healed, though that was miracle enough, but because something deeper had changed. His pride had been washed away. His self-sufficiency had drowned in that muddy water. His need to control, to understand, to have everything happen on his terms. All of it had gone under 7 times and been carried away by the current. He stood on the bank, dripping wet skin, glowing in the sunlight, heart full to bursting. His servants were embracing each other, laughing and crying at the same time. The horses seemed to sense the joy and pranced in place. Everything felt different, brighter, lighter. The very air seemed to shimmer with possibility. Naaman looked back at the Jordan River, that humble, muddy, unimpressive river. That river he had scorned and compared unfavorably to the rivers of home. That ordinary water that had become the site of his miracle. And he understood now. It was never about the river. It was always about the God who commanded him to go there. The God who meets us in our humility. The God who heals us not according to our expectations, but according to his perfect wisdom. Naaman's first thought after the shock and the tears and the overwhelming joy began to settle. His first thought was to return to Elisha. He dried himself. He dressed in his fine robes again, but now they felt different on his healed skin. Now they were just clothes, not shields. Now his identity wasn't wrapped up in his rank or his appearance. Now he was simply a man who had encountered God, a man who had been broken and made whole, a man who needed to say thank you. So he gathered his entire company, all his servants, all his soldiers, all the horses and chariots, and all that silver and gold he had brought still carefully wrapped and loaded. He turned them all around and headed back to Elisha's house. But the journey felt different now. The sun seemed warmer. The wind seemed sweeter. Colors seemed brighter. Everything had changed because he had changed. Inside and out, he was made new. When they arrived at Elisha's house, Naaman didn't wait in his chariot with wounded pride. He climbed down immediately. And this time, when Elisha came out to meet him, Naaman didn't demand ceremony. He didn't expect recognition. He simply stood there, this healed man with gratitude radiating from every pore. "Now I know," Naaman said, his voice thick with emotion, "that there is no God in all the world except in Israel." This wasn't political flattery. This wasn't diplomatic speech. This was testimony. This was a man who had encountered the living God and could never be the same. He had served other gods back home, had bowed to idols, had followed the religious customs of his nation. But now he knew. There was only one true God, and that God had touched him, had healed him, had changed everything. Then Naaman did what seemed natural to him, what his culture taught him, what gratitude in his world looked like. "So, please accept a gift from your servant," he said, gesturing to all that silver and gold. 10 talents of silver, 6,000 shekels of gold, 10 sets of clothing, a fortune, a king's ransom, everything he had brought to purchase his healing. But Elisha looked at all that wealth and shook his head gently. "As surely as the Lord lives whom I serve," the prophet said, his voice kind but firm, "I will not accept a thing." Can you imagine Naaman's surprise friend? In his world, healers were paid. Prophets received gifts. Services rendered required payment given. This was how things worked. This was how respect was shown. He wasn't trying to bribe Elisha. He was trying to honor him, trying to express gratitude the only way he knew how. But Elisha refused. Not because the gesture was wrong, but because of what accepting it would mean. If Elisha took the gold, it would look like the healing was for sale, like God's miracle was a transaction, like grace had a price tag, and that would completely miss the point of everything that had just happened. Naaman urged him, "Please take something." He probably felt uncomfortable leaving empty-handed after receiving so much. Probably felt like he owed something, like healing this profound couldn't possibly be free. But Elisha remained firm, gentle but immovable. And slowly Naaman began to understand. This healing wasn't about payment, wasn't about deserving, wasn't about earning or purchasing or trading value for value. This healing was grace. Pure, unearned, undeserved grace. A gift from God that couldn't be bought because it was freely given. All those talents of silver couldn't add one bit to what God had done. All that gold couldn't make the miracle more real or more complete. The healing was already finished, already perfect, already sufficient. This is one of the hardest lessons to learn, isn't it, dear one? That grace really is free, that God's love isn't for sale, that we can't earn our way to healing or pay our way to peace. We're so used to transactions, to quid pro quo, to "I'll do this if you do that." We're so conditioned to believe that nothing good is really free, that there must be a catch, that we must owe something. But God's healing doesn't work that way. His grace doesn't come with a bill. His love doesn't demand payment. He gives because He is good, because He is love, because that's His nature. And our only response, the only thing He asks, isn't payment. It's gratitude. It's recognition. It's a heart that says thank you and means it. It's a life that changes because it has been touched by something beyond price. Naaman stood there with all his silver and gold, learning that the most valuable thing in the world can't be purchased. Learning that what he had just received was worth more than all the treasures of Damascus. Learning that being made whole, being restored, being touched by God, these things exist outside the economy of human exchange. They're simply gifts, offered, given, free. Finally, Naaman nodded. He understood. He wouldn't insist. He would let the miracle remain what it was, an act of grace. But his heart was so full of gratitude, so overwhelmed with what had happened, that he needed to express it somehow. So he asked Elisha for something else, something that revealed the depth of his transformation. "If you will not accept a gift," Naaman said, Then please let me, your servant, have 2 mule loads of earth, for I will never again make burnt offerings and sacrifices to any other god but the Lord." Do you hear what he's saying, friend? He wanted to take soil from Israel back home with him, not as a souvenir, not as a trophy, but to build an altar, to create a place where he could worship the God who healed him, the God who was real, the God who had proven himself faithful. Naaman was planning his future now, and it included worship. It included devotion. It included organizing his life around the God who had organized his healing. This is what real transformation looks like. Not just a healed body, but a changed heart. Not just relief from symptoms, but a complete reorientation of life. Not just gratitude in the moment, but commitment for the future. Naaman came to Israel as a proud commander seeking a cure. He left as a humble worshiper who had found God himself. Elisha smiled. "Go in peace," he said. And there was blessing in those words. Blessing and release and affirmation. Go in peace. Live in this healing. Walk in this transformation. Build your altar. Worship your God. Let this moment in the Jordan River change everything about how you live from now on. So Naaman gathered his company, still carrying all his silver and gold, since Elisha wouldn't take it, but carrying something far more valuable in his healed body and transformed heart. He climbed back into his chariot. But this time, the journey home was different. This time, he wasn't traveling away from hope. He was traveling toward a new life. A life where he knew the true God. A life where he understood that healing is grace. A life where pride had been washed away and humility had become the ground of his being. The sun was setting as they began their journey, the sky painted in colors of gold and rose and deep blue, the first stars appearing. The evening cool and pleasant, and Naaman looked at his hands one more time in the fading light. Still healed, still whole, still clear as a child's. He had come to Israel seeking a cure for his body. He was leaving with that cure, yes. But he was also leaving with something more, something deeper, something eternal. He had encountered God, and nothing would ever be the same. Rest now, dear friend. Let this truth wash over you like the Jordan's water. Healing is grace. Transformation is gift. And the God who restored Naaman's skin wants to restore every part of you. Body, soul, spirit. All of it. Not because you've earned it. Not because you've paid enough, but because he loves you. Because he is good. Because that's who he is. Maybe you're tired of trying to earn what can only be received. Maybe you're exhausted from attempting to pay for what is freely offered. Maybe you've been standing at the edge of your Jordan River calculating the cost when all God is asking is that you wade in. Trust. Go under. Let the water of his grace cover you. Once, twice, 7 times if that's what it takes. Keep going. Keep trusting. Keep obeying even when nothing seems to change. Your 7th time might be waiting for you tonight. Your healing might be closer than you think. Your transformation might be one more act of faith away. Let your breathing slow. Let your body sink into rest. Let your heart release its grip on control and simply receive. Receive grace. Receive healing. Receive peace. You are loved. You are seen. And you are being made new. One humble surrender at a time. Amen. There's a moment that comes after healing, friend. A sacred moment. When the body has been restored and the initial shock has passed and you're standing there whole again. And you realize something has shifted deeper than skin. something has changed in the very center of who you are. The healing didn't just touch your body. It reached down into your soul and rearranged everything you thought you knew about God, about yourself, about what's real and what matters. Naaman was living in that moment now, standing before Elisha with his healed skin glowing in the afternoon light. And as he looked at this prophet who had refused his gold, as he felt the wholeness in his own body, as he remembered the 7 times under the water, something crystallized in his heart. A decision, a commitment, a complete reorientation of his entire life. "If you will not accept the gift," Naaman said, and his voice was different now, softer, steadier, without the edge of pride that used to sharpen his words, "then please let me your servant be given as much earth as a pair of mules can carry. For your servant will never again make burnt offerings and sacrifices to any other god but the Lord." Let that sink in for a moment, dear one. Naaman was asking for dirt, not gold or silver or precious stones, just earth. Soil from the land where he met God. Soil to take home with him. Soil to build an altar. Because something had happened to him in Israel that was more valuable than all the treasures in Damascus. He had encountered the living God, and now he wanted to worship him. Not just once, not just in gratitude for healing, but forever, always, only. This wasn't a small decision. Back home in Aram, there were temples to other gods. There were religious ceremonies he was expected to attend. There were social pressures and political expectations. His entire culture worshipped differently. But Naaman was saying, "None of that matters anymore. I know who the real God is now. I've felt his touch. I've experienced his power. And I will never bow to another. I will never offer my devotion to what is false when I have encountered what is true." Do you see the transformation here? Friend Naaman didn't just come to Israel for physical healing. He left with spiritual sight. He didn't just receive cleansed skin. He received a cleansed heart. The miracle wasn't only in his body. The greater miracle was in his soul. The deepest healing was the opening of his eyes to see God as he truly is. This is what real healing looks like. It doesn't stop at the surface. It doesn't fix one problem and leave the rest untouched. True healing, the kind that comes from God's hand, it transforms everything. It changes not just what's broken, but how we see, how we think, how we worship, how we live. It reaches into the hidden places and brings light. It touches the wounded places and brings wholeness. It enters the closed places and brings openness. Naaman wanted to build an altar, not in a temple, not in some official religious space, but wherever he was. With earth from Israel, he would create a place to meet God, a place to offer worship, a place to remember that the God who healed him was worthy of everything, every prayer, every thanks, every moment of devotion. This altar would be his declaration, "I belong to the God of Israel now. I am his. My loyalty has been captured. My heart has been claimed." Perhaps you know this feeling, dear one. Perhaps you've experienced a moment when God touched you so deeply that everything changed. When healing or grace or mercy reached you in such a profound way that you couldn't go back to who you were before. When you realized that the God who met you in your need deserves all of you, not just your gratitude, not just your Sunday mornings, but your whole life, your whole heart, your complete devotion. Elisha looked at Naaman with eyes full of understanding. He saw what was happening. This wasn't just a grateful man making promises in the heat of emotion. This was genuine transformation. This was a soul that had been turned inside out by an encounter with the divine. This was worship being born in the ruins of pride. "Go in peace," Elisha said again. And those words carried blessing. They carried permission. They carried the affirmation that, yes, this is right. Yes, build your altar. Yes, worship the Lord. Yes, let this healing change everything about how you live. The sun was streaming through the windows now, golden light falling across Naaman's healed face. And it looked almost like dawn breaking inside a person, like the first light of morning touching a landscape that had been in darkness, like the beginning of something new and beautiful and true. Naaman's heart was opening like a flower toward the sun, opening toward God, opening toward a life of worship and devotion and grateful surrender. True healing always does this, friend. It always reaches further than we expect. We come asking for one thing and God gives us that, but He also gives us Himself. We come seeking relief from pain and He provides it, but He also provides purpose. We come desperate for a cure and He heals us, but He also transforms us. The physical restoration is just the beginning. The deeper work is in the soul. The greater miracle is in the heart that learns to worship. But Naaman wasn't finished. There was something else he needed to say. Something that revealed just how completely his pride had been washed away in that muddy river. Something that showed the depth of his transformation. "But may the Lord forgive your servant for this one thing." Naaman continued, and now his voice held a vulnerability that would have been unthinkable for the proud commander who arrived weeks ago. "When my master enters the temple of Rimmon to bow down, and he is leaning on my arm, and I have to bow there also, when I bow down in the temple of Rimmon, may the Lord forgive your servant for this." Do you hear it, friend? Do you hear the humility in those words? The old Naaman would never have asked permission, would never have explained himself, would never have admitted that his job required things that might conflict with his conscience. The old Naaman operated with certainty and authority, and the assumption that he could handle everything himself. But this Naaman, this healed, transformed Naaman, he was asking for understanding, seeking guidance, admitting complexity. He was saying, I want to serve God completely. I want my worship to be pure and undivided. But I also have a job. I have duties. I serve a king who worships other gods. And sometimes that service will require me to be present in places and ceremonies that I no longer believe in. I'll have to bow because the king is leaning on my arm. I'll have to participate in rituals that my heart no longer accepts. And I need you to know, I need God to know, that when I bow my body, my heart won't be bowing. When I'm present in that temple, my worship will still belong to the Lord alone. This is the prayer of someone living in a complicated world, isn't it? Someone trying to honor God while navigating difficult circumstances. Someone who wants to be faithful, but also recognizes that faithfulness doesn't always look simple or clean. Someone who's learning that following God doesn't mean every situation becomes easy, or every choice becomes obvious. Naaman could have said nothing, could have kept this concern to himself, could have figured he'd just handle it on his own. But instead, he brought it into the light. He exposed his worry. He asked for wisdom. He admitted that he didn't have all the answers and needed grace for the complex reality he was returning to. This, dear friend, is what real humility looks like. not false modesty, not self-deprecation, not pretending to be less than you are, but honest acknowledgement of limitation, genuine vulnerability about struggle, willingness to admit I don't know how to do this perfectly, and I need help navigating this tension, and I'm going to need grace for the messiness of real life. The commander who came to Israel demanding royal treatment would never have exposed this kind of weakness, would never have admitted uncertainty, would never have asked for permission or understanding. But the man who went under the water 7 times, the man who learned that healing comes through surrender, the man whose pride was drowned in the Jordan, he could speak honestly now. He could be vulnerable. He could ask for help. And Elisha's response was so gentle, so full of understanding, so void of judgment or condemnation. Go in peace, he says simply, not how dare you compromise, not you must quit your job immediately, not true faith requires you to make everything simple and clear-cut. Just go in peace. Elisha understood. God understood. They saw Naaman's heart. They saw his genuine desire to worship truly. They saw his honest concern about the complexity ahead. And they didn't demand perfection. They didn't insist on a solution that would make everything neat and tidy. They just offered peace, grace, understanding that life in this world is complicated, and that God's people navigate that complexity with honest hearts and humble dependence. Perhaps you need to hear this tonight, dear one. Perhaps you too are trying to honor God while living in situations that aren't clean or simple. Perhaps you too have responsibilities that sometimes conflict with your conscience. Perhaps you too feel caught between devotion and duty, between faith and function, between the God you want to serve and the world you have to navigate. Hear Elisha's words to you. Go in peace. God sees your heart. He knows your desire to honor Him. He understands the complexity you're facing, and He doesn't demand that you figure it all out perfectly before He accepts your worship. He just asks for your honest heart, your humble dependence, your willingness to keep bringing your questions and concerns to Him instead of pretending you have it all together. Naaman left that conversation lighter somehow, not because all his questions were answered, not because the complexity disappeared, but because he had been honest about it and been met with grace instead of judgment, because he had admitted his struggle and been given peace instead of condemnation, because he had shown his vulnerability and been responded to with understanding. This is a gift of true spiritual community, friend. This is what happens when we bring our real lives to God and to each other. We discover that grace is bigger than our complications, that peace is possible even in the midst of tension, that we don't have to perform perfection to be accepted. We just have to show up honestly, keep our hearts oriented toward truth, keep our worship directed toward the one who is worthy. Naaman was learning that faithfulness isn't about having everything figured out. It's about keeping your heart turned toward God even when circumstances are complex. It's about maintaining integrity even when situations require nuance. It's about worshiping truly even when your body has to be places your spirit isn't. It's about living in the real world while keeping your soul anchored in eternal truth. So Naaman began his journey home. The same roads he had traveled before, the same dusty paths, the same landscape rolling past. But everything looked different now, felt different, was different, because he was different. The man riding in that chariot wasn't the same man who had come seeking healing weeks ago. That man was dead, drowned in the Jordan, washed away with 7 immersions. This was someone new, someone reborn, someone transformed from the inside out. As the caravan moved through the wilderness, as the sun traced its arc across the endless sky, as the miles passed beneath the horses' hooves, Naaman had time to think, to reflect, to begin understanding what had happened to him. He would look at his hands occasionally, still healed, still whole, still clear as a child's. The miracle remained, but now he understood it differently. The healed skin was a sign of something deeper, a visible testimony to an invisible transformation. His body had been restored, yes, but his soul had been remade. He thought about the little slave girl, that small voice that had started everything, how he had probably barely noticed her before, how her words had seemed like such a small thing. But God had used her, had worked through her gentle faith and compassionate hope. She was a captive in his house because of his military campaigns. Yet she had spoken life and healing into his darkness. He wondered if he would see her differently now when he returned. Wondered if he would thank her. Wondered if she would see the change in him, not just in his skin, but in his spirit. He thought about his servants who had convinced him to go into the water, their patient wisdom, their gentle reasoning, their refusal to let his pride destroy his chance at healing. They had loved him enough to challenge him, cared enough to speak truth, been brave enough to call him back from his anger. God had used them too, used their voices to build a bridge from his rage to his restoration. He thought about Elisha, the prophet who wouldn't come out to greet him, who sent a simple message instead of a dramatic ceremony, who refused payment, who blessed him with understanding. Every interaction with Elisha had been a lesson in humility. Every moment had been designed to show him that God's ways are not our ways, that healing happens through surrender, that grace cannot be earned or purchased, that worship is the only appropriate response to divine mercy. And he thought about those 7 times under the water, how nothing changed until the 7th, how he had to keep going when it looked like nothing was working, how obedience had to persist even when results were delayed, how faith meant trusting God's instruction even when it made no sense, how the miracle had been there all along, waiting for his complete surrender. The evening came softly as they traveled, the sun painting the sky in colors of amber and rose and deep purple, stars beginning to appear like tiny lights being lit one by one across the vast darkness, the air cooling, the world settling into that peaceful space between day and night. And Naaman felt that same peace settling into his soul. A deep, abiding peace that had nothing to do with circumstances, and everything to do with knowing he had been touched by the living God. When they stopped for the night, when fires were lit and camp was made, when the servants prepared food and the horses were tended, Naaman stood apart for a moment, looking up at the stars, feeling the evening breeze on his healed skin. And he prayed, not formally, not with elaborate words, just talk to God, the way you talk to someone who has become real to you, someone who has proven faithful, someone you trust completely now. He thanked God for healing, for patience with his pride, for the little slave girl and the wise servants and the humble prophet, for the 7 chances to obey, for the Jordan River and its muddy water and the miracle hidden in its current, for transformation that reached deeper than disease, for grace that changed everything, and he made promises, quiet promises in his heart, to build that altar as soon as he got home, to worship the Lord alone, to live differently, to see people differently, to understand power differently, to measure success differently, to know that the most important thing isn't status or achievement or recognition, but knowing God, being known by God, walking in relationship with the one who made him and healed him and called him into a new way of living. The stars multiplied overhead. The fire crackled softly. His servants were talking quietly among themselves, their voices a gentle murmur in the night. And Naaman felt content, complete, whole in ways that had nothing to do with his skin and everything to do with his soul. He was going home, but he wasn't the same person who had left. He was carrying more than mule loads of earth. He was carrying a transformed heart, a reoriented life, a vision of what it means to truly live. This is what healing does, friend. Real healing, deep healing, divine healing. It doesn't just fix what's broken, it remakes who we are. It doesn't just restore the past, it creates a new future. It doesn't just take away pain, it gives purpose, direction, meaning. It turns victims into worshipers, turns the desperate into the devoted, turns seekers into servants. Naaman would go back to his job, back to being commander of the army, back to the responsibilities and the complexities and the daily challenges. But he would do it all differently now, with a different heart, with different priorities, with different allegiances. His body would be in Aram, but his heart would be in worship. His service would be to the king, but his devotion would be to God. His life would look similar on the outside, but on the inside, everything had changed. And isn't that the beautiful paradox of transformation? Dear one, God doesn't always change our circumstances. He doesn't always remove us from difficult situations or complex responsibilities. But He changes us. He changes how we see, how we think, how we love, how we worship, how we navigate the world. And that internal transformation makes everything external different, even when it looks the same. Naaman lay down to sleep that night under the stars. His body relaxed, his breathing slow and easy, his heart at peace. Tomorrow he would continue his journey home. But tonight, in this quiet moment between where he had been and where he was going, he simply rested in the knowledge that he had been healed. Not just cured, not just fixed, but truly, deeply, completely healed. Body and soul, skin and spirit. All of him made new by the hand of God. Close your eyes now, dear friend. Let Naaman's story settle into your heart like seeds into soil. Let it take root there. Let it grow into hope, into trust, into willingness to let God transform you from the inside out. Maybe you came to God seeking one kind of healing, and He's offering you something deeper. Maybe you asked for physical restoration, and He's also offering spiritual renewal. Maybe you wanted Him to change your circumstances, and He's changing you instead. Changing how you see, how you worship, how you live. Don't resist that deeper work. Don't settle for surface healing when God wants to remake your entire soul. Don't be satisfied with a fixed problem when He's offering a transformed life. Let Him do the deep work. Let Him reach the hidden places. Let Him heal not just what's broken, but what's been closed, what's been proud, what's been resistant. You are loved with a love that transforms. You are seen with eyes that understand. You are held by hands that heal from the inside out. Rest in that tonight. Let your body release its tension. Let your mind quiet its worry. Let your spirit open to the God who wants to make all things new, including you. Breathe slowly. Feel peace like a blanket. Know that healing is happening even now, in ways you can't see yet, in places you didn't know were wounded. God is at work. Trust Him. Surrender to Him. Let Him complete what He has begun. You are safe. You are whole. You are becoming who you were always meant to be. Amen. Gehazi stood in the doorway, watching Naaman leave. Elisha's servant, a man who had witnessed miracles, who had seen God's power flow through the prophet's words time and time again, who had been present for the healing of the great commander, who had watched his master refuse a fortune with quiet dignity, who should have understood what had just happened, but didn't. Not really, not in his heart. He watched the caravan moving away down the dusty road. The servants, the soldiers, the horses laden with all that silver and gold. 10 talents of silver, 6,000 shekels of gold, 10 sets of the finest clothing, a fortune beyond imagination. Enough wealth to change a life completely. Enough to never worry about money again. Enough to live in comfort for years and years. And it was all just leaving. Walking away down that road. Being carried back to Aram. All because Elisha had said no. All because the prophet had this strange conviction that healing shouldn't be paid for. That grace was somehow above transaction. That God's power wasn't for sale. Gehazi felt something stirring in his chest, something dark and insistent, something that whispered with increasing urgency. What a waste, it said. All that wealth just walking away, all that silver that could do so much good, all that gold that could provide security, and your master just let it go, just refused it all, didn't even take a little, not even 1 talent, not even 1 set of clothing. The whisper grew louder. You serve faithfully. You work hard. You deserve something for your service. It's not wrong to want to be compensated. It's not greed to accept what's being offered. Naaman wanted to give it. He practically begged Elisha to take it. Someone should benefit from his gratitude. Why not you? This is how temptation works, friend. It doesn't usually announce itself as evil. It doesn't come wearing a sign that says, "This will destroy you." It comes dressed in reasonable arguments, in justifications that sound almost wise, in logic that makes sense to our wounded pride or our fear of lack or our sense of what we deserve. It whispers that we are being practical, not greedy, that we're just taking what's rightfully ours, that we'd be foolish not to seize this opportunity. Gehazi made his decision quickly, before he could think too much about it, before conscience could speak louder than desire. As surely as the Lord lives, he said to himself, using holy language to sanctify unholy intent, I will run after him and get something from him. Do you see the tragedy beginning, dear one? Do you see how he invoked God's name while planning to disobey God's heart? How he used spiritual language to justify material greed? This is the danger for those of us who live close to holy things. We can learn to speak the right words while our hearts move in the wrong direction. We can quote scripture while plotting sin. We can serve God with our hands while loving money with our hearts. So Gehazi ran, down the dusty road, his robes flapping, his breathing growing labored, chasing after the caravan, and Naaman seeing someone running after them. Someone from the prophet's house immediately stopped his chariot and climbed down, his face full of concern. Is everything all right? He asked, worry in his voice. Had something happened? Was there a message from Elisha? Was there trouble? Gehazi barely paused to catch his breath before the lie came smoothly out. "Everything is all right," he said, and oh, how easily deception can flow when the heart is already bent toward it. "My master sent me to say, 2 young men from the company of the prophets have just come to me from the hill country of Ephraim. Please give them a talent of silver and 2 sets of clothing." A lie wrapped in a story about helping others. A deception dressed in the language of generosity. He didn't even have the courage to say, "I want something for myself." He hid his greed behind a false story of need. He made Elisha the author of his own betrayal. And he made it sound like the money would go to worthy young prophets, not into his own pockets. Naaman's face lit up with joy. "By all means, take 2 talents, he said eagerly. He was so happy, so grateful, so willing to give. He had wanted to express his thanks and had been denied. Now, here was a chance, even a small chance, to show his gratitude. He personally tied up 2 talents of silver in 2 bags. He added the 2 sets of clothing, and he assigned 2 of his servants to carry them for Gehazi. Can you imagine the weight, friend? Not just the physical weight of all that silver, though that was considerable, but the spiritual weight, the weight of deception, the weight of greed, the weight of betraying everything his master stood for, the weight of choosing treasure over truth. Gehazi walked back toward home with 2 servants carrying his stolen fortune, and with every step the weight in his soul grew heavier, even as his heart raced with excited plans for what he would do with all that silver. When they came to the hill, when they were close to home but not yet visible, Gehazi took the silver and the clothing from the servants and sent them away. Then he hid everything in the house, carefully, secretly, where no one would find it, where Elisha wouldn't see. The talent of silver tucked away, the fine clothing folded and concealed, all of it hidden like his heart had been hidden, all of it in darkness like his motives had been in darkness. Then he went to stand before Elisha, composed now, calm on the outside, acting as if nothing had happened, as if he had just been going about his normal duties, as if his hands weren't full of stolen silver and his heart wasn't full of lies. This is what greed does, dear one. It makes us into people we never thought we'd become. It turns us into liars and deceivers. It causes us to betray those we serve. It makes us hide and scheme and justify. It takes the blessing we've been given the privilege of serving close to God's work and turns it into an opportunity for personal gain. It sees miracles and thinks, how can I profit from this? It witnesses grace and thinks, what can I get out of this? And the saddest part, Gehazi had everything he needed. He served a prophet who saw God provide miraculously again and again. He lived in a household where faith was real and power was present. He had the privilege of witnessing divine intervention regularly. He had purpose and meaning, and the honor of serving God's work. But it wasn't enough. He wanted more. He wanted silver. He wanted security that he could hold in his hands. He wanted what he could see and control and possess. The greed didn't just make him steal. It blinded him. It made him forget who his master was. Made him forget that Elisha heard from God. Made him think he could hide his actions. Made him believe that secret sin would stay secret. Made him foolish enough to think that the man who saw Naaman's healing before it happened wouldn't see Gehazi's deception after it was done. Perhaps tonight, friend, you need to hear this gently, but clearly God sees. He sees what we hide. He sees what we justify. He sees the secret compromises and hidden greed and the lies we tell ourselves about why it's okay to take what isn't ours, or pursue what isn't God's will, or compromise what we know is right. Nothing is hidden from Him. Not our actions, not our motives, not the darkness we try to keep in the shadows. And here's what we need to understand with tender hearts and humble spirits. God doesn't expose our sin to shame us, but to save us. He doesn't bring our darkness to light to condemn us, but to heal us. Because greed left unchecked will destroy us. Deception allowed to continue will hollow us out. Sin, hidden and justified, will poison everything good in our lives. Better to be caught and corrected than to continue down a path that leads to destruction. Elisha looked at Gehazi with eyes that saw everything. Not with anger burning, not with condemnation flashing, just sadness. The kind of sadness that comes when someone you've trusted betrays themselves more than they betray you. When someone you've mentored chooses the very thing you've been teaching them to avoid. When someone close to you reveals that they've been hiding their heart. "Where have you been, Gehazi?" Elisha asked, and his voice was quiet, gentle even, like a father giving a son one more chance to tell the truth, like a teacher hoping the student will remember the lesson, like someone who loves you enough to let you face your own deception. Gehazi didn't hesitate. The lie came as quickly as the first one had. "Your servant didn't go anywhere," he said, looking right at Elisha, standing there with stolen silver hidden in his house, with deception fresh on his tongue, with greed still whispering that it had been worth it, that he'd gotten away with it, that everything would be fine. And Elisha just let that lie sit there for a moment, let it hang in the air between them, let Gehazi feel the weight of it. Then he spoke, not loudly, not harshly, but with a clarity that cut through every justification and exposed every shadow. "Was not my spirit with you when the man got down from his chariot to meet you?" Oh, the gentleness of that question, friend, and the power beneath it. Elisha wasn't saying, "I caught you, you liar." He was saying, "I was there. I saw. God showed me. You cannot hide from the one who sees all." He continued, his voice still soft but filled with sorrow. "Is this the time to take money, or to accept clothes, or olive groves and vineyards, or flocks and herds, or male and female slaves?" Can you hear what he's really asking? Do you not understand what just happened here? Do you not see the miracle we witnessed? Do you not comprehend that grace cannot be sold, that God's power is not for profit, that healing is not a transaction? Is this really the moment you chose to turn divine mercy into human commerce? This is the tragedy of Gehazi's choice. Not just that he stole, not just that he lied, but that he fundamentally misunderstood what he had witnessed. He had seen God heal a desperate man through humble obedience. He had watched his master refuse payment to preserve the purity of grace. He had been present for a demonstration of how God's kingdom works, how healing flows, how miracles happen. And he learned nothing, saw nothing, understood nothing. He only saw the silver walking away and thought, "What a waste." Perhaps this is the deeper lesson for us tonight, dear one. It's possible to be close to miracles and miss their meaning. It's possible to witness God's work and not understand God's heart. It's possible to serve in ministry and love money more than mission. It's possible to speak spiritual language while pursuing worldly gain. Proximity to holiness doesn't automatically make us holy. Being around God's work doesn't automatically transform our hearts. We can stand in the light and still choose darkness. Elisha's rebuke was gentle, but it was thorough. He didn't just address the action. He addressed the heart behind it. He didn't just call out the lie. He called out the greed that motivated the lie. He didn't just expose the theft. He exposed the complete misunderstanding of what God was doing and what following God meant. And here's what's so beautiful and so difficult about this moment. Elisha was giving Gehazi a gift. The gift of being seen. The gift of having his darkness brought to light. The gift of truth spoken in love. It didn't feel like a gift, probably. It felt like exposure, like shame, like being caught. But in God's economy, being seen in our sin is mercy. Having our deception revealed is grace, because only what comes to light can be healed. Only what is confessed can be forgiven. Only what is exposed can be transformed. God's voice often comes like this, friend. Not with thunder from heaven, not with lightning and earthquake, but with a gentle question that pierces to the heart. Where have you been? What have you been hiding? Is this who you want to be? Is this what you really think will satisfy you? The questions aren't meant to condemn. They're meant to wake us up, to help us see ourselves clearly, to invite us to honesty and repentance and return. But here's the hard truth we have to face. Being confronted with our sin, being given the opportunity to confess and repent, being offered the chance to turn back. None of that matters if we won't humble ourselves enough to receive it. God can show us our darkness, but He won't force us to walk into His light. He can expose our deception, but He won't make us choose truth. He can offer healing for our greed, but He won't compel us to let go of what we're grasping. Elisha looked at Gehazi with eyes full of sorrow. Not anger, not revenge, not "I told you so," just grief for what was about to be lost. For a servant who chose silver over service. For a man who stood so close to miracles but missed their meaning. For someone who had every opportunity to learn humility and chose greed instead. Naaman's leprosy will cling to you and to your descendants forever, Elisha said quietly. And immediately, friend, the disease appeared on Gehazi's skin. The same disease that had just left Naaman. The same pale patches. The same spreading corruption. The same sentence of separation and slow death. Gehazi looked down at his hands and saw what was happening. Saw the leprosy blooming on his skin like darkness made visible. Like the external manifestation of internal corruption. Like the physical consequence of spiritual disease. He left Elisha's presence. The text says he was leprous as white as snow. The same purity that should have marked his service now marked his judgment. White like snow, but not pure. White like death. White like the ultimate separation from everything he had known. Can you imagine that walk, dear one, from Elisha's presence to "We're back to the house where the silver was hidden"? Did he look at it then and realize what it had cost him? Did he touch the fine clothing with leprous hands and understand the exchange he had made? Did he count the talents and realize he had traded his health, his future, his calling, his very life, for metal, for temporary security, for something that couldn't heal him, couldn't save him, couldn't do anything now but mock his foolishness, This is the bitter fruit of greed. It promises security and delivers isolation. It promises satisfaction and delivers emptiness. It promises gain and delivers loss beyond calculation. Gehazi reached for silver and lost his skin, reached for wealth and lost his health, reached for temporary treasure and lost his eternal calling. He wanted what Naaman brought and received what Naaman had carried. But here's what we need to understand with Gentle Heart's Friend. This story isn't told to make us afraid of God's judgment. It's told to help us see the devastating consequences of greed left unchecked. It's told to show us that what we grasp often becomes our prison. What we hide often becomes our plague. What we pursue at the cost of integrity often costs us everything we truly value. The contrast is stark and deliberate. Naaman, the proud commander, humbled himself and was healed. Gehazi, the prophet's servant, exalted himself through greed and was diseased. Naaman, the outsider, encountered God and was transformed. Gehazi, the insider, missed God and was corrupted. Naaman went home with healed skin and a transformed heart. Gehazi left with diseased skin and a heart that had chosen silver over service. And the most heartbreaking part, it didn't have to be this way. At any point, Gehazi could have stopped, could have confessed, could have repented. When temptation first whispered, he could have said no. When he ran after Naaman, he could have turned back. When he lied the first time, he could have corrected it. When Elisha asked, "Where have you been?" he could have broken down and told the truth. Even in that final moment, faced with the prophecy of leprosy, he could have fallen on his face and begged for mercy. But he didn't. Pride or shame or stubbornness or the hardening that comes from sin left unjudged. Something kept him from humbling himself. Something kept him from the very posture that had brought Naaman healing. And so he walked away. Into isolation, into disease, into the life of a leper, carrying the physical manifestation of spiritual corruption. This doesn't mean, dear friend, that God gives us diseases every time we sin. That's not the point of this story. The point is, this sin has consequences. What we sow, we reap. What we choose, we become. What we pursue, we catch. Gehazi pursued wealth dishonestly, and he caught corruption, not as arbitrary punishment, but as a natural outworking of choosing darkness over light, greed over grace, self over service. And perhaps the warning here is especially for those of us who serve close to God's work, who minister to others, who witness miracles, who speak spiritual truths. We are not immune to temptation. We are not beyond the reach of greed. We can preach grace and pursue gain. We can minister healing and harbor corruption. We can serve at the altar and worship at the shrine of security. And when we do, when we use our proximity to holy things for personal profit, when we turn ministry into merchandise, when we see God's work as opportunity for our advancement, we don't just hurt ourselves. We discredit the very grace we claim to serve. But here's the hope woven through this warning, friend. You are not Gehazi. Not yet. Not if you're listening to this story and feeling conviction. Not if the Holy Spirit is stirring in your heart right now, showing you places where greed has taken root or deception has found soil, or you've been grasping what God has asked you to release. The very fact that you feel this, that you're aware of it, that you're willing to examine your heart, that's grace. That's God's gentle hand pulling you back before you walk too far down the wrong path. So what do we do with this? How do we respond to Gehazi's tragedy? We let it wake us up. We let it search our hearts. We let it reveal any places where we've been choosing silver over service security, over surrender, comfort over calling. We bring those places to light. We confess what we've been hiding. We release what we've been grasping. We repent of the greed we've been justifying. And we remember Naaman. Remember that the path to healing is humility. Remember that transformation comes through surrender. Remember that the one who went down into the water 7 times came up whole. The one who let go of his pride received his restoration. The one who stopped demanding his way and trusted God's way found not just healed skin, but a transformed life. That same healing is available to us, friend, even for the greed in our hearts, even for the deception we've been practicing, even for the ways we've been using God's work for personal gain. There's healing, there's forgiveness, there is a way back. But it requires the same thing it required of Naaman: humility, honesty, willingness to go under the water and let God wash away not just our symptoms, but our sin. Tonight, dear one, let this story do its gentle work in your heart. Let it search you. Let it reveal any greed that's taken root, any deception you've been practicing, any ways you've been grasping what God has asked you to release. Don't be afraid of what you find. God already knows. He's not shocked. He's not surprised. He's just waiting for you to bring it to light so he can heal it. Are you holding silver that isn't yours? Hiding something you took that you shouldn't have taken? Justifying choices you know in your heart are wrong? Living with deception that's becoming normal? Pursuing security at the cost of integrity? Using your proximity to God's work for personal gain? Bring it into the light. Confess it. Release it. Let it go before it becomes leprosy in your soul. Before it costs you more than you can imagine. Before the thing you're grasping becomes the thing that destroys you. God's mercy is greater than your greed. His grace is bigger than your deception. His healing can reach the corruption you've been hiding. But you have to be willing to humble yourself. To be honest, to let go, to trust that what God offers is better than what you've been grasping. Breathe slowly. Let your body rest, but let your spirit be honest. Let truth rise to the surface. Let confession form on your lips, even if it's just between you and God. Let the silver fall from your hands. Let the hidden things come to light. You are loved too much to be left in your darkness. You are valued too highly to be abandoned to your greed. You are seen and still invited to healing. Still welcomed to transformation. Still offered grace. Choose humility tonight. Choose honesty. Choose the path that leads to life, not the path that leads to leprosy of the soul. Close your eyes. Release your grip. Open your hands. Let God search your heart and know you. Let him reveal what needs to be brought to light, and then let him heal it. Wash it. Make it new. You don't have to be Gehazi. You can be Naaman. You can go under the water and come up whole. You can surrender your greed and receive your healing. You can choose differently than he did. Choose well, dear one. Choose life. Choose light. Choose the freedom that comes from having nothing to hide and everything to give back to God. Rest in that truth tonight. Let it guard your heart. Let it shape your choices. Let it lead you home. Amen. So, here we are, friend, at the end of Naaman's journey, at the place where we can finally see the full picture of what happened in those muddy waters. And if we look closely, if we let ourselves really see, we discover something beautiful and profound The healing of Naaman's skin was never the main story. It was always about something deeper, something that mattered more, something that would last longer than healthy flesh. Naaman's leprosy was healed in an instant. 7 times under the water, and on the 7th time the disease vanished. Gone completely. His skin restored. His body made whole. That was real. That was miraculous. That was wonderful. But it wasn't everything, because if God had only healed Naaman's body and left his heart unchanged, what would have been accomplished really? He would have gone home healthy, but still proud. Whole on the outside, but still broken within. Cured of leprosy, but still diseased with self-worship. But that's not what happened, is it? The water of the Jordan didn't just wash away the pale patches on his skin. It washed away the pride in his heart. The humiliation of going under once, twice, 7 times. That wasn't just the path to physical healing. It was the process of spiritual transformation. Every time he went under the water and came up unchanged, he was learning surrender. Every time he obeyed, even though it made no sense, he was learning trust. Every time he let go of how he thought it should be and accepted how God said it was, he was being remade from the inside out. This is what we so often miss, dear one. We come to God with our visible wounds, our obvious needs, our surface problems. We say, heal this, fix that, change this circumstance, remove this pain. And those prayers are not wrong. God cares about our bodies, our circumstances, our immediate struggles. He is not indifferent to our physical needs. He sees when you're hurting. He knows when you're exhausted. He understands when the pain feels unbearable. Your physical suffering matters to him. Your tangible needs are not dismissed or minimized. He cares about all of it. But he sees deeper than we do. He knows that our greatest need is often not for changed circumstances, but for changed hearts. Not for healed bodies, but for healed souls. Not for life to be easier, but for us to be different. Because you can have perfect health and still be miserable if your heart is full of pride. You can have every circumstance go your way and still feel empty if your soul hasn't encountered God. You can have all your prayers answered exactly as you asked and still be restless if you haven't learned to surrender. Naaman thought he needed clean skin, and he did. The disease was real. The pain was real. The social isolation was devastating. The fear of watching his body slowly deteriorate was crushing. He absolutely needed physical healing, and God didn't dismiss that need. God met it. God healed him completely. But what Naaman really needed, what would make the difference between just being cured and being truly transformed, was a clean heart. He thought he needed to be rid of disease, and he was. But what he really needed was to be rid of the pride that was more dangerous than any leprosy. The same is true for you tonight, friend. Whatever brought you here, whatever you're seeking healing for, whatever wound you're hoping God will touch, He sees it. He cares about it deeply. He is not dismissing your need or telling you it doesn't matter. But He also sees deeper. He sees the pride that's been keeping you from asking for help. The control you are grasping so tightly that your hands have become fists. The self-sufficiency that has been slowly isolating you from real relationship with Him and with others. The image you're protecting that requires so much energy, you have nothing left for actually living. The performance you're maintaining that's exhausting you. God wants to heal your body, yes. He wants to change your circumstances, yes. He wants to remove your pain, yes. But more than all of that, He wants to heal your heart. He wants to restore your soul. He wants to transform you from the inside out, so that whatever happens on the outside, you're whole on the inside. So that even if the circumstances stay difficult for a while, you have peace. Even if the body still struggles, you have hope. Even if life remains complicated, you have rest in your spirit. This doesn't mean God doesn't care about your physical needs. It means He cares about so much more. It means that when you come to Him with one request, He often has a bigger answer in mind. When you ask for healing, He offers transformation. When you seek relief, He provides renewal. When you request a miracle, He gives you Himself. And that turns out to be the greatest miracle of all. Think about it this way, friend. If Naaman had been healed without ever meeting God, without ever surrendering his pride, without ever learning humility, what would he have gained? Healthy skin, yes, but the same arrogant heart, the same demanding spirit, the same self-centered life. He would have been cured, but not changed, fixed, but not transformed, relieved, but not renewed. And the next crisis, the next wound, the next need, he would have faced it the same way, with pride, with demands, with the same patterns that had been slowly killing his soul even while the leprosy was killing his body. But because God healed deeper than skin, because the transformation reached his heart, because pride was washed away along with disease, Naaman left the Jordan a completely different man, not just in body but in spirit, not just cured but converted, not just healed but holy. His entire life was redirected, his worship was reoriented, his identity was remade. And that kind of healing lasts, friend. That kind of transformation endures. Naaman's skin was like a child's when he came out of the water that seventh time. Smooth, clear, unmarked, beautiful. But you know what was even more beautiful? His heart, his spirit, his soul that had been cleansed of pride and filled with worship. His life that had been redirected from self-glory to God-glory. His future that was no longer about maintaining his image, but about building an altar to the one who made him whole. That kind of healing lasts, friend. Physical health can fail again. Bodies age. Diseases can return. Circumstances can shift back to difficult. But a heart that has encountered God, a soul that has been transformed by grace, a spirit that has learned to worship truly, that healing endures, that transformation lasts, that wholeness cannot be taken away by time or circumstance or even death itself. It's eternal. It's real. It's the kind of healing that reaches into forever. So, tonight, as you rest here in this quiet space, as your breathing slows and your body settles, as the day releases its grip on you, let God speak to the deeper places. Let Him touch not just what hurts on the surface, but what's wounded underneath. Let Him heal not just the obvious symptoms, but the hidden diseases. The pride that keeps you from asking for help. The fear that keeps you from being vulnerable. The control that keeps you exhausted. The self-worship that keeps you lonely. The resistance to surrender that keeps you from peace. Let Him wash all of it away in waters deeper than the Jordan. Waters that flow from His very heart. Waters of grace that can reach places you didn't even know were wounded. Waters of mercy that can cleanse things you didn't know needed cleaning. Waters of love that can heal wounds you've been carrying so long you thought they were just part of who you are. Your skin might still show scars tomorrow. Your circumstances might still be complicated when you wake. Your situation might still be difficult when morning comes. But your heart can be made new tonight. Your soul can be transformed in this quiet hour. Your spirit can be awakened to worship and wonder, and the profound peace that comes from knowing you are loved, you are seen, and you are being made whole in ways that matter more than you ever imagined. The healing God offers is never just about fixing what's broken. It's about remaking what was lost. It's about restoring what was damaged. It's about renewing what was worn down. It's about transforming what was twisted. It's about making all things new, starting with you, starting from the inside, working its way out until every part of you reflects the wholeness He always intended for you to experience. Let's walk back through Naaman's journey one more time. Not quickly, not rushing, but slowly, gently, like tracing a path by candlelight, like following footprints in sand, like remembering a story that has something new to teach us each time we hear it. Because this journey from pride to humility, from resistance to surrender, from demanding our way to trusting God's way. This is the journey we all must take if we want to experience true healing. This is the path every soul must walk who wants to be made whole. Naaman arrived in Israel expecting to be treated according to his status. He was a commander, a man of importance and achievement, a person who deserved recognition and respect and honor. When Elisha didn't even come out to greet him personally, when the prophet sent a simple message through a servant instead of welcoming him with ceremony, when the instruction was so ordinary and unimpressive, Naaman was offended, insulted, angry. His pride was wounded, and that wound felt worse than the leprosy on his skin. That rejection hurt more than the disease. Can you relate to that, friend? Have you ever come to God expecting Him to show up in a certain way, and when He didn't, you felt disappointed or even angry? Have you ever thought, I've done enough, I've been faithful enough, I've tried hard enough, I deserve better than this, I deserve a more impressive answer, a grander miracle, a solution that honors my effort and validates my worth and proves to everyone that I matter? Have you ever been offended by how ordinary God's instruction seemed, how simple His path appeared, how unheroic His way looked? That's pride talking. And pride, dear one, is perhaps the greatest obstacle to healing that exists. Not because God is personally offended by it, though our pride does grieve His heart, but because pride makes us unteachable. It makes us resistant to help. It makes us closed off from receiving what God wants to give because we're too busy insisting on what we think we deserve. Pride says, I know better. My way is superior. I shouldn't have to humble myself like this. I shouldn't have to look foolish. I shouldn't have to admit I need help. I should be able to figure this out on my own. And as long as pride is speaking, as long as it's dictating our responses and directing our choices and defending our image, grace cannot be received. Healing cannot happen. Transformation cannot begin. Because healing requires openness. It requires vulnerability. It requires the willingness to be helped to be seen in our need to admit we cannot fix ourselves. And pride can't do that. Pride would rather die whole than live broken, would rather maintain dignity than receive healing, would rather be right than be well. Naaman almost missed his miracle because of pride. He almost turned away, healed only in his anger, still diseased in his body, still broken in his soul, still imprisoned by his need to be important. He was ready to go home and live with leprosy, rather than humble himself in muddy water, ready to choose dignity over wholeness, ready to protect his image at the cost of his life, ready to die slowly from disease rather than look foolish for a moment in a river. Think about that, friend. Think about what pride was willing to cost him. Everything. His health, his future, his life itself. Pride was literally willing to kill him rather than let him bend, rather than let him bow, rather than let him look ordinary or common or like just another sick person in need of divine mercy. That's how deadly pride is. That's how dangerous it is. Not because it's the worst sin, but because it's the sin that keeps us from admitting we have any sins. It's the wound that keeps us from seeking healing for any wounds. But then, those servants, those gentle, wise, loving servants who cared more about Naaman's life than about his dignity, who loved him enough to challenge him, who spoke truth wrapped in respect and honor, who asked a simple question that exposed the foolishness of his pride without shaming him. My father, if the prophet had told you to do some great thing, would you not have done it? How much more then when he tells you, wash and be cleansed? And somehow, in that moment, through those words, Naaman heard them, really heard them. His pride cracked just enough to let reason in. His resistance softened just enough to let possibility in. His anger cooled just enough to let desperation speak. His defenses lowered just enough to let hope through. And he made the choice that changed everything. He turned around. He redirected his path. He went to the Jordan instead of going home. He stepped into the water instead of walking away in rage. That turning, friend. That turning is everything. That's the moment when healing becomes possible. That's the instant when transformation can begin. When pride is set aside even just for a moment, and humility is chosen. When we stop insisting on our way and become willing to try God's way. When we let go of how we think it should be and surrender to how He says it is. When we release control and trust His process. That turning is repentance. That turning is faith. That turning is the doorway through which every miracle must come. And notice this carefully, the turning wasn't easy, and it wasn't the end. Even after Naaman decided to obey, even after he stepped into the water, even after he made the choice to humble himself, it still required perseverance. He had to go under 7 times. 7 separate acts of obedience. 7 moments of choosing trust over doubt. 7 times of obeying when nothing appeared to be changing. 7 times of trusting when results were delayed. 7 times of looking foolish and staying faithful anyway. The humility wasn't just in the decision to go to the river. It was in the staying in the river. The continuing to obey even when immediate results didn't come. The trusting even when the first time didn't work, or the second, or the third, or the 6th. The keeping on when everything in him wanted to say, "See, this isn't working. I knew this was foolish. I should have trusted my first instinct." How many of us give up after the first time, friend? After the second, we pray once and expect instant answers. We obey once and look for immediate rewards. We humble ourselves in one moment and expect everything to change right away. We go under the water once and come up still sick and say, "Well, I tried. God didn't answer. This doesn't work." But sometimes, often actually, the healing comes on the 7th time. Sometimes the miracle blooms after perseverance. Sometimes the breakthrough happens when we've continued trusting even past the point where it seemed to make sense. Naaman teaches us that humility isn't just a moment. It's not a single decision. It's a posture. It's a way of living. It's an ongoing choice. It's the willingness to keep going under the water even when you come up unchanged. To keep trusting even when you can't see results. To keep obeying even when it feels foolish. To keep surrendering even when pride keeps whispering that you're being taken advantage of, that this isn't working, that you should quit and try something else, that you deserve better than this. But when the humility is real, when the surrender is genuine, when the trust perseveres through the first time, and the second and the third, and all the way to the seventh, that's when the miracles happen. That's when skin becomes like a child's. That's when hearts are made new. That's when pride is washed away completely, and peace rushes in to fill all the space it had been occupying. That's when we discover that what we thought was humiliation was actually liberation. What felt like losing face was actually finding our true face, the one God created us to have. What looked like going down was actually the only way up into the life God had for us all along. And here's the beautiful paradox at the heart of this entire story. The truth that turns everything upside down the moment Naaman stopped trying to maintain his dignity was the moment his true dignity was restored. The moment he let go of his pride was the moment he became truly honorable. The moment he accepted looking foolish was the moment he became truly wise. The moment he submitted to washing in muddy water was the moment he became truly clean. The moment he stopped demanding respect was the moment he became truly respectable. This is always how it works in God's kingdom, friend. Always. The way up is down. The way to be first is to be last. The way to find your life is to lose it. The way to be exalted is to humble yourself. The way to receive grace is to stop trying to earn it. The way to experience healing is to surrender control of how and when, and through what means it comes. The way to become who you were meant to be is to stop trying so hard to be who you think you should be. So tonight, wherever you are on this journey from pride to humility, whatever step you're on, whatever struggle you're facing, know that you're not alone. Know that the path you're being asked to walk has been walked before by countless others. Know that the surrender you're being invited into is the doorway to freedom, not the door to defeat. Know that going under the water 7 times, however foolish it feels, however vulnerable it makes you, however much it wounds your pride, it's the path to becoming whole. Let your pride go. Really, let it go. It's been exhausting to maintain anyway, hasn't it? All that effort to look strong, all that energy to appear like you have it together, all that work to maintain the image, all that striving to prove your worth, all that defending of your dignity. It's exhausting, and it's keeping you from healing. So let it go. Just release it, like opening your hand and letting something drop that you've been clutching so tightly your fingers ache. Let your need to control go. It hasn't worked anyway, has it? All your careful planning, all your attempts to manage everything, all your efforts to make sure life goes the way you think it should. It hasn't given you peace. It hasn't brought healing. It's just made you tired and anxious and afraid of what might happen if you loosen your grip even a little. So let it go. Trust that God can hold what you release. Trust that he's better at controlling things than you are. Let your insistence on how things should be go. It's been keeping you from how things could be, hasn't it? All your expectations of how healing should come. All your ideas about what the miracle should look like. All your demands that God show up in ways that make sense to you. It's been blocking the very answer you're desperately seeking. So, let it go. Open yourself to the possibility that God's way might be different from yours, better than yours, more healing than anything you could have imagined. Let it all go, and watch what God does when pride floats away and humility remains. Watch what miracles become possible when you stop demanding your way and trust His way instead. Watch what healing happens when you go under the water even though it makes no sense. Watch what transformation occurs when you persist in obedience, even when nothing seems to be changing. And so we come to the end of our story, dear friend. The end of Naaman's journey from disease to healing, from pride to humility, from brokenness to wholeness. The end of this night together, these hours we've shared in this quiet space. The end of these words that have been washing over you like water, like grace, like the gentle current of a river, carrying you toward healing and rest and peace. Can you hear it? The sound of the Jordan. Not loud or rushing, not violent or overwhelming, but steady and sure. The sound of water that has been flowing for thousands of years. Water that washed a proud commander and made him humble. Water that received a diseased man and returned him whole. Water that has become, in the telling and retelling of this story across centuries, a symbol of every place where we meet God in our need and find Him faithful in our surrender. The Jordan is still flowing tonight, you know. Not just in the land of Israel, thousands of miles away, but here, in this quiet space where you're resting, in the secret place of your heart where God is working even now. The Jordan flows wherever pride meets humility, wherever resistance meets surrender, wherever we finally stop fighting and let ourselves be washed by grace. It flows in your bedroom, in your living room, in your car, wherever you are right now, listening to these words and letting them reach the tired, wounded places in your soul. Listen to that water friend. Let its sound fill your awareness. Gentle, constant, patient, unhurried. It doesn't demand, it doesn't force, it doesn't insist or pressure or threaten. It simply flows, simply offers, simply waits for you to step in. One foot at a time, one breath at a time, one small act of courage at a time, one surrender at a time. The water is patient. It will wait. God will wait. Grace doesn't rush you. You've carried so much for so long, haven't you? The weight of trying to be strong when you're breaking inside. The burden of maintaining your image when you're falling apart. The exhaustion of controlling everything when you can barely hold yourself together. The weariness of pretending you're okay when you're really not. The heaviness of hiding your wounds instead of bringing them to the healer. The loneliness of keeping up appearances instead of being honest about your struggles. You're tired, dear one. So tired. Exhausted in ways that sleep doesn't fix. Weary in places rest doesn't reach. And that's okay. That's not weakness. That's not failure. That's just truth. You're tired. You need help. You need healing. You need someone else to be strong for a while so you can stop trying so hard. You need arms to hold you so you can finally let go of trying to hold everything yourself. That's what this story offers you tonight. That's what these hours have been about. Permission to stop trying. Permission to be weak. Permission to admit you can't fix yourself, can't heal yourself, can't save yourself, can't do this on your own. Permission to step into the water and go under. To let the current hold you instead of you trying to control the current. To trust that someone else is taking care of you so you don't have to take care of everything yourself. To surrender control and discover that what you feared would be drowning is actually floating, resting, being carried by grace. Naaman had to learn this, had to discover that his greatest strength came not from his military victories, but from his willingness to be weak. Not from his command of armies, but from his submission to a prophet's simple instruction. Not from his status and achievements, but from his humble obedience to a word from God. Not from proving how important he was, but from admitting how desperate he was. He had to become like a child again, had to receive healing as a gift instead of earning it as a wage, had to let go of everything he thought made him worthy, so he could discover he was loved simply because he was. You are too, friend, loved simply because you are. Not because of what you've accomplished or how much you've achieved. Not because of how strong you've been or how well you've performed. Not because of how well you've maintained your image or controlled your circumstances or earned your worth. You're loved because God loves. You're valued because He values. You're worthy of healing because He says you are not, because you've done enough to deserve it. You don't have to earn this. You just have to receive it. So let yourself sink into that truth like sinking into the softest bed after the longest day. Like finally letting your body rest after years of tension. Let yourself be held by that love like being cradled in arms that will never let you fall, never get tired, never give up on you. Let yourself rest in that grace like floating in water that bears your weight so you don't have to. Like being carried when you can't take another step. Like being held when you can't hold yourself anymore. Your healing is here, friend. Maybe not in the form you expected. Maybe not in the package you ordered. Maybe not on the timeline you wanted, or through the method you would have chosen. But it's here, available, offered, waiting. In the surrender you've been avoiding. In the humility you've been resisting. In the going under you've been afraid of. In the letting go that feels like loss but is actually the finding of everything you've been searching for. So, go under, dear one. 7 times if that's what it takes. 70 times 7 if that's what's needed. However many times the healer says. However long the process requires. However deep the surrender must go. However vulnerable it makes you feel. Keep going under. Keep trusting. Keep obeying. Keep letting the water wash over you until every trace of pride is gone, until every shadow of self-sufficiency has floated away, until every false foundation has been dissolved, and only truth remains. And when you come up the final time, whenever that is, wherever that happens, however long it takes, you'll find what Naaman found. Not just healed skin, but a transformed heart. Not just a cured disease, but a redeemed life. Not just relief from pain, but relationship with the God who loves you more than you can imagine, and has been waiting so patiently, waiting for you to stop trying to earn what He's been offering for free all along. The journey is complete now. The story is told. The water is still. And you are invited to rest now. Really rest. Deep rest. Soul rest. The kind of rest that comes when you finally stopped carrying what was never yours to carry. When you've released what you were never meant to hold. When you've surrendered what you were always meant to give back to God. The kind of rest that reaches into your bones and your heart and the deepest parts of your soul. Let your breathing slow now, like waves on a shore, in and out, steady and sure, gentle and rhythmic. Let your body sink into whatever is holding you, mattress or chair or floor or couch. Let it hold you so you don't have to hold yourself. Trust it to support your weight. Let your muscles release their tension bit by bit, piece by piece. Starting with your face, your jaw unclenching, your forehead smoothing, the tightness around your eyes releasing. Let it travel down your neck, the tension draining away. Your shoulders dropping, finally dropping, after being held tight for so long. Your arms going heavy and loose. Your hands unclenching, fingers spreading, palms opening. Let it move through your chest. Your breathing deepening. Your heart slowing to a peaceful rhythm. The tightness in your lungs releasing. The knot in your stomach loosening. Feel the release moving down your spine. Each vertebra letting go. Your back settling into support. Your hips relaxing. Your legs growing heavy, so heavy. Your thighs going soft. Your knees releasing. Your calves unwinding. Your feet going completely soft and loose. All of you just resting, being held, being carried, being loved exactly as you are right now in this moment. And in this restful space, in this peaceful moment, in this sacred now, hear the words spoken over Naaman, spoken over you too. Go in peace. Not go fix yourself first. Not go prove yourself worthy. Not go earn your healing. Just go in peace. You are seen. You are known. You are loved. You are being healed. The journey continues tomorrow, but tonight, right now in this moment, you can rest. You can let go. You can simply be held. The Jordan is still flowing. Grace is still available. Healing is still happening. Transformation is still possible. And you beautiful, brave, exhausted, wonderful soul, you are going to be okay. More than okay. You're going to be whole, healed from the inside out, changed from pride to humility, transformed from striving to resting, made new in ways you can't even imagine yet, in ways that will surprise you with joy. So sleep now, if sleep will come. Let it take you gently. Or simply rest in this peace if sleep isn't ready yet. Either way is fine. Either way, you're held. You're safe. You're exactly where you need to be. The water is washing you clean even now. The darkness is being driven out by light. The wounds are being tended by the healer who never fails, never gives up, never stops working until you're whole. Naaman's story is your story too. His journey is your journey. His healing is possible for you. All it requires is the humility to go under, the trust to keep obeying, the faith to believe that muddy water touched by divine command is more powerful than all the clear water in the world without His presence. The courage to look foolish for a moment so you can be made whole for a lifetime. The willingness to surrender your way so you can receive His way. You have that courage, friend. I know you do. You've proven it by listening this far, by staying with this story, by letting these words wash over you, by being willing to consider that maybe, just maybe, the healing you need requires the surrender you've been avoiding. You're already on the path, already in the water, already trusting more than you were when we began, already closer to healing than you were hours ago. So keep going. Keep surrendering. Keep letting go. Keep going under. And when you come up healed, when transformation has done its complete work, when pride has been washed away, and peace has rushed in to fill every space it left behind, you'll look back on this night as the beginning, the turning point, the moment you stopped trying to maintain your dignity and discovered your true dignity was found in surrender. The night everything started to change because you finally let yourself be changed. The river is singing its lullaby now, soft and low and gentle. The stars are keeping watch through your window, faithful lights in the darkness. The healer is here closer than your breath, nearer than your heartbeat, speaking peace over every anxious thought, every wounded place, every tired part of you that's been holding on for so long. Rest in Him. Rest in this moment. Rest in the promise that you are loved, you are held, you are seen, and you are being made completely, perfectly, beautifully new. Sleep well, dear child of God. Sleep deeply. Sleep peacefully. Sleep knowing you are safe in arms that never let go, never get tired, never stop loving. You are held by grace that never runs out. You are being healed by love that never fails. You are being transformed by mercy that never ends. Tomorrow is coming, and it will be bright. But tonight is for rest, for peace, for release, for the gentle healing that happens in the dark and the quiet when we finally stop trying and just trust. When we finally stop striving and just rest. When we finally stop controlling and just surrender into arms that were waiting to catch us all along. Amen. Amen. Amen.